What's up, champs? Welcome back to Short Shifts, the twice weekly Keeping Karlsson podcast in between the Sunday mega shows. I say twice weekly, but this is actually Short Shifts' last episode of 2022. So I guess I got ahead of myself a little bit there. I am your host, Louis Ezekiel, and ready to talk about the latest and greatest news in the NHL fantasy landscape and take some patron questions. And joining me as the EBUP, the emergency backup podcaster, we've got the one, the only, Elon Dubrovsky. Elon, how you doing tonight, bud?
Hey, everybody. I'm going to try to do my best here. I know Ben prepared to do an awesome show, and then he messaged us saying he didn't have a microphone. So here we are. It's going to be great. I'm going to channel my inner Ben here. Also makes me very sad to know that there's no more short shifts for the rest of the year. Probably knowing myself and my obsession, I might put together some show next week just because, I don't know, I can't handle not listening or talking about fantasy hockey. I know you guys have lives and families, and you're going to enjoy the holidays, and meanwhile, I'm going to be like, oh, I need to do a podcast. And my wife will be like, why can't you just be like Ben and Lewis? But anyways, here we are, but I'm excited for today. We've got a really good show run, as I see.
Absolutely. All right. Well, let's get right into it here. I'm gonna shove you into doing the show like an official shoving Michael Bunting off of the ice. Have you seen this yet?
No, I don't know.
You gotta check it out if you haven't. Oh, it's great. He got manhandled. Anyway, we'll save it for later. All right, Elon, we got some injury news that we want to get to. We've got a couple people in some new spots. We got a hot and cold streak, and then we're gonna head into some patron questions. So let's get into it here. We'll start with the injury to Boone Jenner. Jenner's thumb was injured. He had a fracture. He had to have surgery to fix it, and it looks like he's gonna be out for about 4 weeks. Good Michigan boy Kent Johnson is filling in on the top line along with Laine and Gaudreau. And he's already got a goal here on Tuesday night. Is this a pause the pod, run out and grab him? Is this a wait and see? Well, how excited are you about this new opportunity for Kent Johnson with, of course, all due respect to Boone Jenner and his injury?
Yeah, obviously get well soon, Jenner. Really sucks for people, especially in your multi-category leagues. He feels, yeah, and also I hope that he feels better, personal life, and hope his family is okay with this. But blah blah blah. Okay, Kent Johnson is pretty close to pause the pod, right? First of all, this isn't a nobody. 5th overall pick a couple drafts ago. Like everyone says he's going to be amazing. He started slow this year, but I guess makes sense. He's only 20. Now he's not only top line, he's also top power play. Also, he scored a goal not only today but also yesterday. This is his second straight goal in 2 games. This is great deployment, high pedigree, big minutes. All of a sudden, he played 20 minutes in the game against Dallas on Monday. So yeah, I definitely would strongly, encourage people to go and get Kent Johnson if they can, unless it's a super shallow league.
Absolutely, I'm with you 100%. I think it's really exciting. Love to see a Wolverine in a great spot. So yeah, go grab him. There's no disagreement from me, certainly.
And also, by the way, Cole Sillinger is also injured. So it's even less competition. I guess Jack Roslovic could take that spot with Gaudreau and Laine, but we all know that he sucks. And if he gets that spot, it won't last. So it's definitely Kent Johnson's for the taking.
Yeah, not a lot of pressure from any other kind of spot there. So yeah, I like that a lot. Moving on to another kind of lingering injury here. Bruce Cassidy announced that Jack Eichel would remain out of the lineup at least through Wednesday's game, and didn't have any other update on the superstar for the Golden Knights who was hurt a few weeks ago. Remember, he came back for a game, played for 20 minutes, and then has been out ever since. They basically said that this lower body injury had not healed properly. In the meantime, we've got Riley Smith, who's been really hot with 7 points in his last 4, and Chandler Stevenson also playing well. Mark Stone has stayed super cold, still just on pace for 60 points on the year. What do you think? Do you think this is going to be a problem moving forward? Do you like Stone to start to improve a little bit? Is he maybe a good buy low candidate here? What do you think? Especially for those of us who, are scuffling a little bit and need a bit of a home run swing, should we be dropping some offers for Mark Stone?
I mean, I definitely don't like it for Mark Stone that Eichel is out. However long that's the case, that's worst case scenario. Eichel, Stone, Stevenson, that was a good line. Kessel, Stone, Stevenson, a much worse line. Maybe 5-6 years ago that could have been good, but Phil Kessel really seems to stink. I remember at the start of the year we were excited about this guy getting potentially good deployment on the top power play or something, but Phil Kessel has been on this line with Stone and Chandler Stevenson. Looks like he played only 12 minutes in the game against Buffalo on Monday. I think that Bruce Cassidy doesn't like him, and maybe for good reason. He's probably cooked at this point, so that's too bad. So yeah, long term, sure, I guess you can make an offer for Mark Stone, like if we're confirming that Eichel's going to come back and be at full health. But overall, I don't like it. So yeah, Chandler Stevenson. Yeah, if everyone's healthy, I like Stevenson. And Riley Smith is like a good guy to grab out of free agency all the time. He's just like always a solid pick that if there's a very good chance he'll get a point in a given night, even though he's probably not going to give you like a Tage Thompson type night ever, but he'll be solid. So those are my takes. Stone, I'm concerned while Eichel's out. I probably am not reaching out to do a buy low unless it's like super cheap. Stevenson, he's good. Smith is good. And then Phil Kessel, don't even worry about. Like I was like saying, like Kent Johnson, pause the pod, go get Kent Johnson online.
Pause the pod and drop Phil Kessel.
Yeah, I don't care where Kessel is in the lineup. I'm definitely over him.
Okay, right on. So I don't know. I feel like you have them listen to the last 45 seconds of this podcast, whoever the Mark Stone owner is, and then maybe drop them an offer because, I like Stone. I feel like he's capable of more. Jack, Eichel's not going to be injured forever, we hope. I know that lingering injury and Jack Eichel is not a, happy set of words to hear. But I don't think he's going to be out forever. And then I think when you get Stone back, he's going to see that production bump. So, you might have to endure, however long Eichel will remain out for, with Stone not being so hot. But, I don't know. It could be a good opportunity here. I'm a little bit more bullish on the idea of making an offer for Stone here.
Yeah, I guess I just did that stream scheme special of buy lows and sell highs. So maybe I'm just burnt out on the whole concept. Like, obviously, it depends. Like, Mark Stone, I think, is going to be a solid 70-ish point guy, like, as his floor. Like, last year, he pays for 66. This year, right now, he's a little below that, pacing for 60. I don't think he's, like, the above point per game guy that he looked like in 2020-21, unless, like, he and Eichel just really start clicking again. So, yeah, it depends on the cost, I guess. Like, I'm definitely not saying, like, Mark Stone is a drop. Like, don't get me wrong.
For sure. Yeah, well, and it's hard to get that chemistry, too, when one of you is injured, so much of the time. All right, let's move on to Nashville, where we have newcomer Thomas Novak centering the top line on Nashville and playing on power play 2. This is just another case where we've kind of seen Nashville bring a guy in from the A and just drop them right onto the top line with Forsberg. What do you think of this guy? Is this an interesting spot for him? He had an assist in their most recent game against Edmonton. So, some immediate success, kind of like what we saw with Juuso Parssinen when he came up and was dropped into a similar spot. Any thoughts on Novak? Is this a guy that you might take a swing at, or is it just kind of like, Nashville's just trying stuff out and things will revert back to normal soon?
Well, I did add Thomas Novak in my Dynasty League since he's minors eligible, and it was like no one available, so I was really excited. Like to get a first line player in that league was insane, and I was very excited for a league like a cupful or like a 1-year league. I mean, yeah, it's probably a wait and see kind of thing. Like Parssinen had a couple good games and fell off, and who knows how long this will last. But it's not like Thomas Novak is a nobody. Like if you look at his AHL numbers, he's been above a point per game this year with the Milwaukee Admirals, and last year he had 34 points in 42 games. So he's shown offensive abilities. I really love when teams do this and like bring a guy up who's like, producing offensively in the minors, and then they bring him up to like an offensive line, because it's kind of like feels like a waste almost to bring him to the fourth line and play him 8 minutes a game. It's like that's not what his job seems to be, and so it's cool. And yeah, it's definitely not the kind of thing where I'm expecting it's going to last forever, but they're obviously needing to try different things because their offense has been a little slow. And hey, game 1 of Thomas Novak, they got the win. Like you said, he got a point, so I'm sure he's going to be centering that top line with Forsberg tomorrow. So yeah, I guess grab him in your super deep leagues, but don't expect it to last. Like, I mean, I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, totally. It's like being headhunted to join the company because you're killing it, at your current place, and they have you come in and clean the floors for a while and then see if they like you. It's not really what the job description is. So
yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's a great comment, and it is so frustrating. I think to see these guys just they're trying to develop. And you'd rather almost see them just down in the minors getting to play big minutes and getting to really practice sort of what they're really going to do in the real game when the puck drops.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like this is a guy who's 25 years old. This is his, shot. Like last year he played 27 games, probably in the bottom 6 role. Like I don't remember. We never talked about him on the podcast, so I can't imagine he was doing anything interesting. So here we go, Thomas Novak. This is your chance. Let's see what you can do. And as far as fantasy goes, I don't know, watch list, and let's see.
Yeah, definitely. All right, cool. One little hot and cold streak. Normally, this is our big section after the break, but we're going to try to answer some questions from patrons. So I wanted to talk about a hot and cold player on the same team. And those are Sam Steele and Kalen Addison for the Minnesota Wild. Steele has been really nice filling in that top center role. Not a place that we've really seen him. He was typically a bottom sixer when he was playing in Anaheim. But being given a shot here, on a Wild team that is not especially deep down the middle, at least until Marco Rossi kind of comes into his own. A guy who has really struggled in very limited minutes, like we're kind of talking about, right? So Steele has 6 points in the last 5 games. He's averaging about 2.5 shots a game, which is pretty good when you're playing with Zuccarello and especially Kaprizov, who I think generally is the one that you're trying to get the puck to. So some really nice effort for Steele. We've seen this kind of musical chairs, trying to figure out who the top line center is going to be for the Wild. They kind of stuck with Steele and gave him maybe a little more leash than some of the other guys have seemed to get. And we're seeing some results. You like to see that. I feel like Dauber was talking about that. I don't know if it was in a ramblings or if it was just on Twitter, but just that, really kind of stuck with him and gave him a shot. Kalen Addison, on the other hand, if you added him for those 4 off-night games last week, and I know it wasn't like a true streamagami because that Friday was kind of busy, but he didn't get any points in those games. 4 total shots, 2 blocks. Not great, but, opponent difficulty, I think, is important to keep in mind. And the 2 games that they have coming up here, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, we've got Anaheim and San Jose. Anaheim might be playing Lucas Dostal for a second night of a 2-game series here, depending on the health of Stolars and Gibson. And San Jose has always, seems to be down for a bit of a track meet. So, I think with Reimer, they're a little more solid, but I think I would hold on to Addison if you grabbed him from last week and are still carrying him, just because I feel like there's the real chance for some good offense, especially against Anaheim. This is an opportunity for scoring. I think we'll see some in this game. And certainly for Steele, as long as he's getting that deployment, I'm hanging on to him. I don't think you're going to be able to trade him, for any kind of upgrade, based on this very limited time on line 1, despite his hot streak. So I think this is just a guy you're going to ride until he might get shifted down, and then, you make the move.
Yeah, I guess I'll disagree with you a little bit on Kalen Addison. You're shooting your shot. I think there's a lot of guys on Minnesota. These aren't busy nights where a defenseman is worth more than a forward. You'll likely be able to fit in anyone. So you could have dropped in Marcus Foligno or Ryan Hartman or Jordan Greenway. That, I'm as confident in any of them getting a point as Kalen Addison. To be honest, and even if Kalen Addison gets you an assist, that's still he'll likely only have 3 couple points then. Yeah, so I'm not very into him. There's always the chance, but I think that's you shooting your shot on someone, and sure, he's on the top power play, but he's been on the top power play every game this year and isn't doing much. But I do get what you're saying about the quality of opponents. As far as Sam Steele, Minnesota's won 5 games in a row. Things are going well. So all the people who were thinking that Ryan Hartman was going to come off the IR and jump right to the top line, clearly there's no reason to do that. He went to the 3rd line with Boldy and someone. I forget. I think maybe Freddie Gaudreau. And that seems like a really good spot for him. And yeah, so I agree with you. Definitely, I would be interested in Sam Steele for as long as he's on the top line. And I don't think this is going to be a short-term thing anymore.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, I just want to clarify my stance here. I don't think you're running out to add Kalen Addison, but yeah, no, I see your point too. If you got the moves to spare, like you said, there are certainly a lot of teams that are going to have slots open on Wednesday and Thursday where you don't just have to, I'm squeezing in a defenseman because I can, right? So, yes, see your point there, definitely. So yeah, look at your roster, look at your scoring settings, definitely. I like him more in a points league, certainly, than a league that is either categories or that counts those peripherals, because he's really not giving you much of those at all. So, definitely, see the point there. I'm looking to jettison him, but I'm going to wait until, after at least that Anaheim game and probably through the San Jose one as well. All right. Fair enough. We're going to take a quick break here, and then on the other side, we will get to some really excellent patron questions. You're listening to Short Shifts. Welcome back to Short Shifts. Elon, we solicited some patron questions here for our last show of the season just to see if we could give the people exactly what they want, and I hope some of this will be interesting for other folks out there as well. I thought we got some pretty excellent questions here that cover a wide range of players, so I think this will be really great. So we got to start with Andy S., super patron. I want Rob Thomas gone. Trade targets, or even better, people you would trade to get Thomas so that he can see the deal from the other side is basically the question that he asked. I didn't deliver that very well. But yeah, Rob Thomas, if you're looking to unload him, I guess now is a fine time to do it. He's on a hot streak with 5 points in the last 3 games. I'm kind of assumed that sort of the problem, this is always the problem with Robert Thomas, right, is that if it's a points league, you're doing pretty fine, but if he doesn't score, he's not really doing anything, right? So for possible trades, I thought about looking for some guys, who maybe aren't scoring quite as much, but are providing you, have similar deployment and are providing you with kind of a stronger floor than Rob Thomas is. So I thought David Perron might be an interesting offer. Not always the world's most exciting name, but a blue who, or a former blue, I should say, who has some experience certainly with Thomas. He's been about 0.35 fewer fantasy points per game in Cupful over the last month. But like Thomas, he's getting nice deployment, and he shoots and hits to provide those floor points when Thomas doesn't. So I thought that might be someone that I would offer to try to get Rob Thomas to sort of say, hey, listen, I know what's frustrating about him is getting those goose eggs or getting those cardio nights, as we like to say, in the Cupful. This is a guy who's going to guarantee that you get some points every game, and is capable of scoring as well. Another guy I looked at, as someone who I might offer for Thomas was Tyler Toffoli. He's been about a half a point, per game less over the last month than Thomas, but he obviously shoots plenty. He hits a little bit more than Thomas does, as almost everyone does. And he obviously gets that nice deployment in Calgary. So thoughts on Thomas, thoughts on maybe some possible trade targets. What should Andy do in this situation, if he has just had it with having Rob Thomas on his roster?
Did he write that question today?
He did.
I mean, why is he tired of having, he's on a big point streak right now. He has points in every single game except for one since the start of December. I'd take Rob Thomas over Tyler Toffoli and over David Perron. I don't know if that's I don't know. I guess, this is being dropped on me. I haven't had a lot of time to prep. Like we said, Ben was supposed to do the show. I'm curious to know what Ben thinks. I think Rob Thomas is pretty good. Like Kalen Addison, I said he might get you assist and maybe not much else, but at least you're going to get that assist and maybe 2 of them, almost every game. This guy produces points. So I don't know. I guess if I'm looking for a trade target, I would be searching higher, right? This is a guy who's a point per game. I don't know. We talked about on the show how Patrice Bergeron was cold, but then he had a big 4-point game yesterday. So I guess that would have been a good trade target. Maybe someone in that realm is someone who I'd go for. Someone who I feel has really big up. What's Tarasenko doing lately? What about his teammate? I know that Tarasenko was cold for a little bit. I'll bet you he doesn't have as many points as Rob Thomas overall. So 25 points in 30 games. Probably he has more Cupful points just because of all his shots. But
yeah, so
good question. But I always wonder if the premise is flawed. I wonder if just the answer is just hang on.
Just
to Rob
hold him.
Thomas.
You'd prefer to hang on to him. You would recommend be patient with him.
Unless, I don't even think you need to be patient. I think he's just producing for you. Yeah, I mean, unless if what you're getting is not what you want, then yeah, and maybe maybe it's the kind of question where the answer is to go for a different position. You brought up Perron. Maybe if you need a winger to balance out your team, maybe that makes sense. Or you could go for a defenseman. I don't know who can I throw out there? Tony DeAngelo. I don't even. That's probably not even worth it. You'd probably want to go higher than that. Think of
I would slam accept on that trade for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know.
All right. So you like him? You would rather hold on to him?
Yeah, I just don't see a reason why you need to cut bait. If you're not happy with what he's doing, then why did you draft him? I could have told you this was what was going to happen. He was going to be point per game without that many shots.
All right.
What did you expect?
There you go. Okay. Well, we'll get to another question for Andy, and maybe we can give him a more satisfying answer there. But Andy, we're feeling Rob Thomas. We like him, so let's maybe hang on to him. Yeah, I guess my offers were sort of based on the question asked. Like if I had somebody that I knew I wanted Rob off their team, those are the type of offers that I made. But I like the idea of if you're trying to sell him, yeah, get what you can from him, certainly. All right. We also heard from another great patron who interacts with us all the time, Ryan Downey. He says, Besser, return to little fanfare. How do you view players with great upside who are underperforming due to contract or team situation? Specifically, I believe he mentioned that Besser was on the first line with Horvat last game. So what do you do with a guy who maybe the team isn't super happy with, or that's just sort of being either pushed down the lineup or kind of limited in what they're being allowed to do? I thought of a few guys who might be considered to be, in somewhat similar situations. I thought certainly of Marco Rossi because we were talking about the Wild earlier. Obviously a guy who has really high upside, but is not gonna, live up to it this season clearly. Oliver Bjorkstrand, who we look at as a guy with a lot of untapped potential, but he's been away from Beniers and Eberle. He's been on power play too, and has been a guy who's come up frequently, just for sort of underperforming. Maybe a guy like Mason McTavish or Toivo Teravainen, who are, pushed down the lineup a little bit. McTavish is on line 3, but he's on power play 1. Teravainen, maybe not a great example because he's also only shooting 2%, which is not great. I think he had a goal tonight. So good on him. I guess these were some of the people who I sort of thought of as folks who maybe, because of their contract or their team situation are not as appealing as they should be, but, have the potential to be really great players. I think in a 1-year league, generally the answer is, don't think that potential is the same as reality, right? Like the potential is there, but the reality is they're not getting the opportunity. They're not producing at the level that you think they should.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, I definitely agree with you. And with some of those names, yeah, like Mason McTavish. I know our producer here, John, is a huge fan of Mason McTavish, and why not? I think he's an amazing prospect. I don't think he's like a hold this year. Same with a few of the other names you said. Brock Besser, though, I'd probably still hold. I don't know, maybe I'm being too patient, but, he's been kind of in and out of the lineup. But, he came back from this illness for Monday's game against St. Louis. And like you said, he got put on a good line. He was on the top power play. He took 5 shots. None of them went in. But if one of them had gone in, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation because the person who asked the question would be happy with Besser at this point. Of course, Vancouver got trounced 5-1, and probably the lines will get switched up again. But he's someone that I guess I'd give a little bit longer of a leash to. I like how he take some shots, I guess. But yeah, not like a forever leash. If he goes cold and he's still being bounced around the lineup for another week or two, I'd at that point be willing to let go. But I don't know. I just don't get that feeling yet, that gut feeling that I want to give up on Brock Besser. I still think he's probably rosterable in leagues to just kind of wait and see.
Sure. Okay. So, we're looking at, let's see, 2 points in the last 7 games here.
Mm-hmm. But before that, he was looking really good, though.
That's true. He's had some good runs, 16 points total here, shooting less than 10%. So probably not scoring as much as maybe, he should. Maybe there's some positive regression coming, but he also has seemed like, I guess there are some problems in Vancouver, right? And it seems like he is shouldering some of the blame for them. At least it seems that way, from a coaching standpoint. So yeah, I think if you are going to give him some time, if you're going to give him some extra leash here, make sure it's not too long because I think that he has all the potential in the world, could be a great player, but maybe that greatness is going to be realized, in a different city, in a different uniform.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Obviously, it depends how deep your league is. I think in the Cupful 14-team league, I'm holding for now. 12-team, maybe not. Maybe in a league like that, maybe not. But we just talked about Kent Johnson is someone super exciting to get. I don't know if I'd be dropping Brock Besser for even the great Kent Johnson as
interesting. So for what it's worth, he's 47% rostered on Yahoo. So there's a lot of leagues where he is clearly someone who is droppable, although probably getting to the point of the season where we got some inactivity too. So just something to keep in mind. Let's jump on to patron Nolan's question. He asks, is Trevor Moore's cold streak a concern, or is he due for a breakout with 3+ shots in 7 of the last 11 games, including some 6-shot games in there, but he's only managed 3 points in those games? So, I took a look through it. No goals on his last 31 shots. He did not manage a point during that 8-9 crazy game with Seattle. Moore is a career 8.6% shooter, so I don't think it's super shocking to see this draw. And the Kings haven't really been overwhelming on offense. If you excise that game versus Seattle, they've averaged less than 3 goals a game in the other 10 during this cold streak that Nolan pointed out. That's not a ton of offense for line 2, power play 2 to get in on, even though, this has been, a line 2, power play 2 that sometimes has really surged and taken over the scoring. But it's just not happening all that much, and it's not that many opportunities. Moore's pace over the last 3 quarters of last year, which was when we were really getting excited about him, was 47 points in 61 games. That's a 63-point pace. I think he's more of a 50, 55 point guy who can go on runs that might push him a bit higher overall. So I think he's due to score more than 3 points every 11 games. But even if there's some positive regression in there, I don't know that it's adding more than 3, maybe 4 points over that same stretch, in kind of a best case scenario. I think that Moore is a little bit concerning. I've held on to it maybe longer than I should have in the keeper league that you and I and Ben and John and all of our friends are in. I do think that ultimately, he's pretty much a borderline guy more often than not.
Yeah, I mean, the question was, is he going to break out? I don't know about that, but I think I agree with you. In the Cupful 14-team league, if he was dropped, I'd probably add him. I like him, but like you said, as a solid 55, maybe 60-point guy, he's on a good line. He's definitely taking shots, which is the main thing I'd like to see. He just signed a new contract. I know some people might say that this means now he's not going to try as hard.
Yeah, he's
maybe
going into cruise control.
But maybe the opposite is now he wants to really show the fans and the team that he's deserving of his big new deal. So, or probably just goes into the wash and he'll just play as hard as he can, like he has been. LA has been in a bit of a funk. So I don't know. I think that it'll be just fine. And I think he'll just go back to being as valuable as he was a month ago, let's say, which was I'd be happy to have him on my team as a depth guy, but not someone I'm expecting to have huge multi-point nights from.
Yeah, for sure. Just dropping him in quickly, even though he ultimately was cut from the main run of the show. But another guy who was coming in for just a mountain of criticism about signing a contract and then not really doing anything was Jordan Kyrou. He's been on total fire. 10 points in the last 5 games, including a hat trick with an assist against Columbus on Monday. So things turned out okay for Kyrou, and hopefully with the new contract, things will turn out all right for Trevor Moore.
But Kyrou, I'm just seeing on Game Day News, out with an upper body injury today. So I don't know.
Bummer to hear that. I'll have to make sure I adjust on my fan tracks because he took a hit late in the game. Appeared to have his bell rung, as they used to say, was pulled, I assume, by the concussion spotter, and it sounds like there are some lingering issues there. So unfortunate because, like we said, he was really on a hot streak, but I think he can bounce back here, hopefully, in the short term. All right, we got one more question for Andy S. here. He said, am I snoozing on Jared McCann, or is he worth a long-time hold? This was an interesting, long-term hold. I thought he was an interesting pick. So the question presents the concern that he's a snoozer, but I, looked into his stats on Natural Stat Trick, and there are actually a few spots where I'm kind of concerned in terms of red flags for overperformance. The big one, obviously, is that he's shooting 27% at even strength. That's almost actually double his shooting percentage on the power play, which is pretty wild. But with Seattle's kind of balanced system, he's seen under 50% of power play time on ice over the last 8 games. For 4 of the last 8 games, I should say. He's also had under 16 minutes of ice time in 4 of the last 8, and then had, nice totals, in the upper teens, in the others. I definitely prefer McCann to Moore, but I think you might be snoozing, if you're still hanging on to him. Because if his shooting starts to regress and he doesn't start picking up some additional assists, because he's been really goal heavy, kind of a Chris Kreider style, lots of goals, not too many assists. He's going to start to fall from his current 61-point pace, which is kind of borderline rosterable as it is in, 12 or 10 team leagues. I think he's still worth holding on in Cupful probably, but, I worry about this huge shooting numbers. Like it's really inflated. And if he can't keep it up and he's still only at a 61 point pace, that worries me.
Sure, but like goals are good, right? Like he's doing really well in Cupful for average points per game because goals are worth more than assists. And I know what you're saying, that maybe the goals will dry up, but I mean that's not an ifs, like because maybe their more assists will come. Like sometimes players like have a lower shooting percentage, or maybe some of those rebound are saved, and then it's a rebound and someone else scores, and you get an assist for that, and your shooting percentage took a hit. Like he's getting good deployment. I don't know. He's been like really. I have him in Cupful, and I definitely have. It's funny. Andy S also asked about like wanting to trade Rob Thomas. Like I think he just doesn't like having players who are producing like on his team. He's like, am I snoozing? I want to get Rob Thomas gone. Am I snoozing on Jared McCann? Like I feel like have a drink of cognac or something and relax a little bit. Sounds like your team's pretty good if these are your worst players. So I don't know. I get what you're saying, that maybe he's overperforming, but I'm not like too worried about him becoming like droppable. But
sure,
if you could trade him for Rob Thomas, I would do that.
I was just you read my mind. You know me too well. I think this is just like classic keeping Karlsson. Next question up is, okay, how about would you trade him for someone that we also mentioned previously? I love it.
Can I throw something out there before we end the show here? On the mega show I did with Brian, we called Hampus Lindholm a snoozer, and I want to rescind that because I hadn't realized at the time that he's taken over on the top power play in Boston for the last couple of games. Charlie McAvoy power play 2, and Hampus up there like he was at the start of the year with your Pasternak and Marchand and Bergeron, the whole gang, and Hampus Lindholm. And now he has a power play assist in each of his last couple games. So like, if you listened to me and you dropped him, please go get him back. And if you can't, then I'm sorry. And if someone else dropped him because he was cold and not on the power play, whatever, like, I think he's maybe more of a pause the pod than Kent Johnson. Like, I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know. I'm not a Bruins person. Like, I haven't been checking in as to why this got changed. But for as long as it lasts, I definitely want Hampus Lindholm while he's on the top power play in Boston.
Yeah, right on. I think you make a great point there. And, certainly with the acumen that top power play has, like he really has the potential to go off. He's had some really productive weeks when he's had this deployment and opportunity. So yeah, I think I would jump all over him. I might lean towards Kent Johnson a little more, although I guess with position availability, maybe that's not the move to make. But yeah, glad you brought it up. I had it as a note to add to make sure too, because I know you had requested that we talk about it. You tweeted out, you're covering all your bases, bud. I know that you want to be accountable for the advice that you give, and I think that that's a really good quality there.
I just don't want to give people bad advice and then cause them to be mad at me. But okay,
sure.
Lewis, this has been so fun. Look at this. I feel like probably we've gone into a long shift, which is something that I'm somehow unable to avoid. But
it's pretty standard. We've gotten to about 1/4 of what you typically do on a Sunday night. So it happens sometimes. But yeah, it's been really fun. Thanks so much for stopping by. Of course, people know where to find your work. If they found this podcast, they know where all the good stuff for Keeping Karlsson is. Anything else you want to share before we take off for the night?
No, I guess that's it for short shifts for this week, but Brian and I will be back with another mega pod on Sunday. I think Dave is doing a stream scheme. He hasn't let us know otherwise. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to Keeping Karlsson, and you're going to keep getting shows all throughout the holidays. Just
Absolutely.
Not short shifts.
Yep. Yeah. Ben and I will be back, I think, recording a show on January 3rd that'll be released late that night or early on the 4th. We might have something else up our sleeves. We've been sort of talking about a couple ideas related to the Winter Classic. So stay tuned, and we'll try to update you if we have anything else going on. But thanks so much for joining us, everybody who's listening to the show or who watched it on Twitch. Please be sure to give us a follow at Short Shift KK, Brian and Elon, of course, at Keeping Karlsson, Dave Betton of the Stream Scheme, at NHL Stream Scheme. Also recommend you follow at Game Day Lines, at Game Day Goalies, and at Game Day News NHL, all organized so nicely at www.gamedaytweets.com. I check that website way more than I should all the time. Don't tell work. Hopefully none of my colleagues are listening. Visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. John Reed is our digital media producer. And until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.